St. Raymond Anonymous Foundation for Freedom, Family, and Faith. Hi, I'm Anne DeSantis, Executive Director. In 2015, the Mercedarian Friars came together because they wanted to start a foundation to help families in crisis. And that's exactly what we've been doing over these years, whether it be something to do with divorce, separation, trauma, job loss, loss of a loved one, or other adversities. We've helped so many families get through those tough times through the spiritual works of mercy. We'd love to hear from you. Please do get in touch with us for our services. They are prayer, priestly consultation, podcasts and videos, and programs and events. We look forward to hearing from you. Just go to nonotus.org and get in touch with me. I look forward to hearing from you. God bless.
Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry present Journeys in Faith. Now, here's Anne DeSantis.
Good evening. Welcome to Journeys in Faith here on Fiat Ministry Network. This is Anne DeSantis. Great to be here with you. I have a wonderful guest for you all this evening. I have Alim Howell. Alim, thank you so much for joining us on Journeys in Faith.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I know it's been a long time coming that we've been wanting to do this program. So glad that we could do this, because now not only will we talk about your faith journey, but we'll talk about those two nonprofits, the Race for Peace and Urban Navigation. And for those who are watching right now, and you might want to just go online and check out those websites there, raceforpeace.org. We're going to unpack that during the show. And also Urban Nav, that's NAV as in Victor.com. Let's start out with your bio, and we'd love to hear your own personal faith journey. Is that Alim Howell is a community activist, advocate, and nonprofit organization liaison for Race for Peace and Urban Navigation, and he lives in Delaware County, PA. So he's not that far away from where I'm located here in Philadelphia, but our audience, of course, is all over the place. So let's just start out with you. Tell us about your family, where you're from, and of course, we'd love to hear that faith journey.
Yes. My faith journey, I would say personally, it's very strong. Sometimes, not to sound insulting to your viewers or insulting, basically. Some people can be non-believers. Sometimes people don't have a relationship with God or Jesus Christ, and sometimes they just don't believe. It doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means that sometimes they just think the universe can provide and stuff. But sometimes with things that you can't explain, like health or anything very, very tragic in a life, you have to put your faith in something. And that's why I thought this show made perfect sense, because with everything going on in our current society, with violence and just mayhem, and you see what happened in New York and Buffalo, sometimes we have to channel our emotional side and our mental health in a religion. And I grew up a Baptist Christian. And that's how I grew up, and that's how my parents raised me. My name is a Muslim name from the Quran, and it means, the definition is a knowing person, strong knowing person. And throughout my childhood, I actually have a one prop here that my family gave me. It's called Bible Stories. And so when I was a child, my parents would read this story to me, Bible Stories. And they would read this book, and this was given to my grandparents, to my parents back in the late 90s or early 2000s. And see right here, this is my grandparents to my parents, to my mom and dad. And this is the story we would read as a child. And my relationship with God, I pray a lot. I do. You know, life is far from perfect, you know, and it's best to pray sometimes, again, to like channel your emotions. Sometimes when you do something out of anger and out of sadness, it's just not good. And then that's when violence and arguments come upon and come to light. But sometimes if people get involved with a religion, you know, that's just a good way to channel, you know, what's going on inside of you mentally and everything. You know, for mental health reasons, sometimes it's good to have a religion because that's some way you can cope. And throughout my path growing up as a child, it's I was involved in my church. I was involved. I played the drums for my youth choir, and we participated in church. I would say 2 Sundays out the month. Yeah, 2 Sundays out the month we would go to church. So twice a month on a Sunday we would go to church, and we would participate in communion. And I went to Sunday school growing up as a child. And sometimes as you get, you know, I'm in that millennial age group. Sometimes we're just so busy sometimes with trying to do work and do a lot of things at once. Sometimes we don't have time sometimes to go to church physically, but mentally and emotionally we're still there, you know.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing so far. I mean, I think that all of us, we can recognize that all of us are on a different path with God, right? So thank you for sharing that, because it's really important to recognize that no matter who we are, where we are, that God is with us and He's calling us to that relationship. So, so thanks for sharing. That's beautiful, especially that Bible, and you know, I'm sure that's a real keepsake for the family there, and sharing your prayer journey, because I do believe from what you've expressed to me that your faith does have something to do with what you want, what you are involved with right now with these nonprofits, especially Race for Peace, which I believe you've been involved with a little bit longer, right?
Yes.
And I know that it is a nonprofit, a community nonprofit. Why don't we just take a little bit of time, just tell us about how were the beginnings of that? How did that come to be? Because I know that your family is involved with it as well.
Yes, it came to be by my dad. That's how Race for Peace started. He is the founder of Race for Peace. And now our cousin is the president of Race for Peace, but he'll always be the founder. And then basically our cousin's going to be doing more of the legwork from here on out. And it started in 2016, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization through the IRS. And Journeys, the title of your show, Journeys in Faith, it just makes sense. Journeys in Faith, Race for Peace. When you think about those 5 words, you know, with the police, with the violence, with just the drugs, just everything that's going on currently, COVID-19, Russia-Ukraine war. I mentioned New York and Buffalo. It sometimes just everything that we're doing sometimes involves faith, some type of faith with police officers. If they make a mistake on their job, you know, sometimes they just have to believe that they just won't do it again. It all comes into light with the faith, you know, because when you think about what happened in New York, that people lost their loved ones that day. And, you know, instead of having, trying to like a payback type of attitude, I'm going to get payback, I want to go out and do something to another race of people just because he did something to our race, you know, and going back and forth in a war, you know, we all have to channel our emotions for our mental health in something. And sometimes taking out our own actions negatively is just a bad thing. It won't work. And sometimes going to church, hearing the pastor preach, hearing the word, that it can motivate people, even people who are non-believers. Sometimes it's good for motivation. Like, thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning. Thank you, God, for my blessings. Thank you for everything you have given me, and be appreciative. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes life is far from perfect, and money, and it's just, but you just have to have some type of faith for mental health to channel yourself.
Absolutely. It sounds like your faith, from what you're expressing, has made an impact on you to have that attitude of gratitude and to be able to do the work that you're doing every day. And so I just really appreciate you being here. I want to thank also the two people that connected us, which would be John Raschuti and Jill Freshy, who are actually former guests on this show. So make a shout out to them. And they were also a guest on my podcast with Bill Snyder on the Sowing Hope podcast, just to make that connection and thank them for bringing you here. Is there anything else that you'd like to share about that journey, that faith journey, and your family? Because obviously, your family came together for this mission. What's it like working day in and day out with your family on this mission together?
Honestly, honest is the best policy. Sometimes there's minor disagreements. Sometimes with us working so closely with police officers and police departments, and us being African American and Black, we can it can just get a little bit tense at times. But we always made a way to have our events at local churches, such as churches in Philadelphia, churches in the main line, church, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery, Philadelphia, any church in those counties. And so far, we had our events in Philadelphia churches so far, and we spoke at some mainline churches. And that's called the Race for Peace Summit events. And we wanted to have it at a church. My take on it is having an event at a church with police officers, it can make the atmosphere more calm. And then as soon as people walk through the door for a Race for Peace Summit, and they see a bunch of police officers there, their gun, their badge, it definitely calms down the atmosphere a little bit because they're in the house of the Lord. So it's not any yelling, it's a nice calm atmosphere. That's what we try to do. We're not out, rallying up outside in the street. Sometimes we have to do that. We did that one year where we marched with local senators and state representatives. We marched in Philadelphia. But sometimes to get your point across the best way, you have to do it in a calm atmosphere, and the tone and the vibe has to be just calm and soothing. And having our events at local churches, that's the strategy we took and the approach we took. And also the pastors of both churches were all for it. And one of the pastors is Pastor William J. Scott, and his church is in North Philadelphia, Harold O. Davis Church in Philadelphia. And also another pastor was Pastor Harry Lee Williams, and that's in West Philadelphia. And so those are the two churches we had summits so far, and the atmosphere was good, and those were positive outcomes. Because anytime you're in a church, it's not too much ego. There's no tension. There's really no, animosity when you're in the house of the Lord. For that, it's only for an hour or two, because you can't change everybody's opinions and stuff. But having things in a church, and if you go to church, it would at least make that few hours, 1 to 5 hours, good. And we think that we did something positive, and we changed people's mindset just a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. And I also just want to recognize what you said about the violence. It's just such a terrible thing when we hear of these violent acts that happen throughout our country and the world. And what you're doing is a positive thing for that, this race for peace, and trying to bring that peace, like you said, that calm when you do these events, where the whole idea of doing these events within the church setting is I think, a really good combination of trying to bring God into it, right? Because it's very important for us to recognize him, because without him, there won't be peace, right? We need the Lord to help to bring that peace to our world and even to us personally. He brings that to us. So we do have to take a short break. Now, when we come back, we're going to learn more about these two nonprofits, and we are also going to learn about what's happening this coming year and beyond, and how you might want to support Race for Peace or Urban Navigation. We'll be right back here on Journeys in Faith. Thank you so much for joining us on Journeys in Faith. Here we are again after our commercial break with Alim Howell, and he is with Urban Navigation and Race for Peace, which we talked a lot about during the first half of the show. Tell us now also about both of these nonprofits, and how do they interchange together? How do you support both and working for them?
Race for Peace is trying to build a better relationship with our local and fellow police officers. Urban Navigation is an avenue and a place to go to for all youth to get mentorship and to get guidance. So especially with the ATV dirt bike riders, they can get guidance and they can get help if they need it. You know, we all need help, but then especially for our youth, and I would say under the age of 19, because once you're 21, sometimes you just, things start to click. Things start to just fall into play, and understand you have to be responsible. You have to be on time. You have to maybe not do things. We're not teenagers anymore type thing. So you're adulting. But Urban Navigation is really good for the youth. And any youth that need guidance, they can go to Billy Penn Studios in Philadelphia in room 210. And that's where they can go to receive guidance and mentorship. And that's basically what Race for Peace and Urban Navigation, that's what they are, to sum it up in the short term, shorten it up.
Yes, love it. And tell us more about what you do for each of those organizations. I know you're a little bit more with, you've been with Race for Peace. It is your own family's, nonprofit. How did the collaboration come to be with Urban Navigation? And do you recommend, so when people come to you from Race for Peace, do you also recommend Urban Navigation for some of those young people so that they can get that mentorship? I guess there's that collaborative work, isn't there?
Yes. Our cousin, he and my dad's best friend, they founded Urban Navigation. So that's how the collaboration came together. And that's how everything formed, basically. And they are both members of Race for Peace as well. And basically, in my own words to describe it, I do recommend people for Urban Navigation because sometimes it's just so controversial with the police sometimes, especially what happened with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Walter Wallace Jr. So Urban Navigation is good if people still have just a slightly negative mindset about police officers. Anytime you see a police car driving on the road, wherever you are, whatever state, wherever you are, and it's just, sometimes you just get a vibe, and sometimes it doesn't even matter the color. sometimes it could be any color people to any ethnicity. Sometimes just, oh, the police are driving by, the police are walking by. They're just so standoutish. It's almost like you're looking at a big star celebrity or something like walking around. It's just like they're police officers. You can't not recognize them. So urban navigation was good. And I'm glad they found it and started it, because if people just don't want to be a part of the police, they can go to something else. So it's good that we have basically Race for Peace and urban navigation. I would call that the sister partner organization of Race for Peace. Like, yeah, a partnership organization.
Yes.
And
are they located near where you are too physically? Is it the physical location around the same area of urban
yes,
navigation? Okay.
yes,
And I guess for our audience now, you know that our audience isn't just the greater Philadelphia or Philadelphia area. We do get people from, all over the country. Are there ways that they can help? I mean, you are a nonprofit, so obviously you take donations. Do you specifically work within, and I think you do, within that, Philadelphia, greater Philadelphia area, or does it go a little bit further and beyond that?
I would say that we're really Philadelphia based, but
Okay.
we do work and have been working since 2016 with Bucks County, Chester County, Delaware County, Montgomery County, and Philadelphia. So any township or borough in those counties, we would reach out to and we've been partnering with. And we're Philadelphia based, but then we work with all the counties too, in the local Delaware Valley area, greater Philadelphia, Delaware Valley area.
Yeah,
And
good to know. It's a big area. I mean, those 5 counties encompasses just so many people, so many neighborhoods, so many communities. So doing excellent work. Now tell us, is something going on this year? We're in 2022, springtime right now. Do you have any events that are coming this year, next year that we can keep an eye on?
yes, this year in 2022, we have our Race for Peace, Unity in the Community. That would be at the King of Prussia Mall. And that's where police officers and local sports organizations, businesses, they have the table stands with when promoting their business and stuff, so it's not just Race for Peace. Everyone can get involved. And that's when they can meet and greet police officers if they want to talk about any issues in the neighborhood, or it can really just be a friendly, family-friendly event. And that's what we've been trying to push, basically a family-friendly event. And other events, like you talked about donations and stuff. We're trying to do book bag giveaways. So book bag giveaways for the schools and stuff, that's getting more of the youth involved. And that's really through urban navigation, but Race for Peace too. And book bag giveaways around the fall, if that's set up. And we always have our annual ice skating event. And that's where police officers and local citizens come out to the ice skating events. And we're also trying to get more of the Philadelphia sports teams involved, like the Philadelphia Flyers and stuff. I believe, the Flyers mascot Gritty, he may show up to our ice skating event, and sometimes sometimes it's tough to get the players, but just to have them involved. I know they probably know about us, and I've been communicating with the professional sports teams, but it would be nice if we had maybe sometimes players to show up, especially maybe at the King of Prussia Mall event, just make an appearance or something. But we've been promoting it really well, and we've been doing everything we can do. And yeah, that's so far.
Yeah, that's really a lot. A lot of great things are happening. So if they go to your website, will more information be there, especially for, like you said, the ice skating event, King of Prussia, the book bag giveaway? Are they listed there, or where else can people find out about it, and the dates, where to go, that kind of thing?
Everything is monitored on our Race for Peace Facebook page, and that is RFPC social media. And same thing with urban navigation. Everything is caught up to date and monitored daily, monthly through Urban Nav. So those 2 Facebook pages, everyone will find the information right there.
Right. What is it like for you? Because I'm sure you've done some of these events before. We get to interact. You said the police officers there, the people are there. It's a really great community event. What is it like when you're there getting to meet these people, talk to them, maybe even minister to them a little bit, right? Because you're bringing peace. What you're doing is you're trying to bring those two groups together, the police officers, the people, in a common, peaceful place. So what is it like for you when you're having those interactions?
For me, my experience so far in interactions, they've been very positive. But sometimes it's been really positive because Race for Peace is trying to help the police, basically. We're trying to work with them. We're not trying to protest and rally against them. That's another thing. So all my interactions, of course, are just going to be plain, just non-controversial because of, but when I see citizens coming out to our events, local citizens and stuff, and they never heard of Race for Peace before, those interactions are also positive, because we try to make all the events family friendly oriented, not negative vibes or negative tension and stuff like that. We just try to make it as family and as friendly as we can, because that's the best approach to take. Sometimes our organization, we probably could protest and it would be definitely national news and headlines if, we protested and just did a few things and put on certain t-shirts and stuff. But, we try to just make it as even street and it's just less negative tension as possible. So they all have been good. And then, the people, sometimes they just have to take a breath and then just realize that we're just here and they're just here today to just try to help and hear you out. You know what I'm saying? They're actually going to listen. That's the thing. They have to listen. We all have to listen, but definitely you have to hear the police officers out, hear the concerns, and maybe put something into action. That's the thing too. Sometimes you can't just brush it off. You have to try to take it into consideration and make a plan and make a goal for the future, especially for our youth. That's the whole point of this.
Amen. Yes. I remember when John Raschuti, our common friend, and Jill Freshy told me about you. It was such a positive interaction of what you're doing for the community. So it's really getting out there that this is something very, very good. What about people who are living in other cities that might be listening, thinking, wow, I wish, something like that could come to my city? Are you having any plans to expand, or do you have advice for them on ways that they could get that started in some other city in this country?
We are trying to expand.
Okay.
We're trying, but the way to expand, I've gotten some constructive criticism from local political offices, and it was positive constructive criticism. You have to have an event in their legislative district, sometimes senatorial legislative district in their town. So if we wanted to expand, the honest way to do it is just say we want to go to New York and Buffalo. We would have to go to New York and Buffalo and plan an event there, contact their township building or their borough, their city building, their police, the Buffalo Police Department. That's what we would have to do and try to coordinate an event. So the way to expand is you just have to point blank and plain have an event in their state or in their town. That's the thing. Go to Atlanta, we can have an event there. That's how you do it. And that's the only way I can figure it out. And so far, that's what just the local political office has been telling me, like, have an event in our area and then we'll come out, and that's how you do it.
Yeah, that's great advice. And, you're on this show that maybe some people who are not from our area, and I'm pretty sure that they are watching that are from outside, definitely connect with you and go on those two websites and be generous, right? And again, those websites are raceforpeace.org. The other one is for urban navigation is urbannav.com. And do go on those Facebook pages because, as Alim said, they're very active there. They announce when these events are going to be, especially these fun events like the ice skating and the one that's going to be at the mall and other things that are coming up, and the back to school one that you mentioned about the school packs, right? That they're all beautiful things that you're doing. So I just want to personally thank you so much for taking the time to be on Journeys in Faith.
Thank you. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So for all of you, again, check out those websites. Alim, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you all here next week on Journeys in Faith. God bless.
Journeys of Faith is a production of Fiat Ministry Network and Patchwork Heart Ministry. For more information about Journeys of Faith, email info@fiatministrynetwork.tv. And be sure to friend, follow, and like us on social media. Just search Journeys in Faith with Anne DeSantis.